Today, I want to talk about a very important topic, the topic about the shadow that takes over in our spiritual quest. It is also known as spiritual bypassing. This is a term given to basically a phenomena where we use spiritual beliefs, spiritual terms, spiritual attitudes to cover up some inner work that we still need to do. We may have wounds that need addressing. We may have emotional devastation that needs processing. We may have some authenticity to claim within us, but instead we cover it up with some spiritual jargon, couple of spiritual techniques to experience a short high, and we create kind of a spiritual resume, a compensatory personality, so to say, to cover up what is deficient within us. And this term, spiritual bypassing, was created in the 1980s by a Buddhist teacher whose first name I'm remembering, John, but I've forgotten the last name at this moment. But if you look up spiritual bypassing, I'm sure you'll come across that. I think it will help you to inform yourself about spiritual bypassing, because I'm teaching this subject on the request of several students, and recently my publisher also asked me to add a chapter on how do we ensure that it is that we are actually making a spiritual progress, and we are not just ending up creating another spiritually smart shadow personality that seems to be making progress. But when the what is it? The tire hits the road. Is that what we say, right? When the rubber hits the road, I'm always like, enjoying Western teachings of ways to say things. I'm always experimenting. But when the rubber hits the road, when you're actually faced with a problem or a loss, or betrayal or a disease, you think that your spiritual capacities are in place, but they're not. And at that time, the shadow disappears and you're just left with where you had started and worse, because you disappoint your own self. Others are shocked too. We are all aware of how this shadow has been operating in the spiritual circles. Swamis, lamas, rinpoches, you name it. All kinds of pundits and people from that big galaxy out there who are supposed to be enlightened, as one scholar put it in an online article that I was reading, and he said, enough Swamis, Rinpoches, and Lamas have been caught with their hallow down brackets pants down. What is going on here? What's going on here is that when we are making spiritual progress with all our sincerity, we have a skewed way of going about it. And in my analysis, because now I'm going to present my analysis, not what's out there. In my analysis, there has been, especially in the Western world, an excessive focus on connecting spirituality with positive thinking, positive events, positive feelings, whereas the Eastern approach has always connected spirituality with authenticity. There's a difference. So when we are trying to create only a positive life for ourselves and a positive set of values and a positive set of feelings, we're creating almost like a very skewed direction within our own consciousness. And then when we have proceeded on that journey for a while, initially it's really giddy. Have you felt that? You feel really giddy. But afterwards, it almost creates, you become an island unto yourself. You're unable to deal with anything that takes you even a little bit away from positivity. But that is not what the Vedic wisdom, which is the father wisdom of Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, which is the ultimate wisdom that has given a whole big, the whole impetus to the oneness movement and the non-duality teachings that are out there in the world. All this stuff has come from the Vedas. But were the Vedas saying that life and spirituality is all about accumulating the positive? Not at all. In fact, I want you to understand first this concept of the shadow/bypassing, and then I want you to understand why it emerged. So I'm going to come back to the Vedas versus the Western teachings. And then we're going to look at what can you do if you are currently bypassing? How can you descend into a deeper journey? How can you stop your mind from playing games with you? Are you ready? Do you all agree that this happens? Yeah. Okay, then let's have the conversation of the century. And if you engage with me, if you are online right now, if you post your questions now or later, we're going to keep talking about it till we get enlightened here and now. That's what we're going to do. We really can become enlightened, as in filled with light, when we approach a topic that is putting us into darkness. So enlightened is not an ultimate experience. It can be a moment-to-moment experience. The word for enlightenment in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in Sanskrit is moksha. And moksha comes from two words, the kshaya, or the end of mohaha, the delusion. So let's end our delusions about spiritual awakening. Let us achieve a moksha, if not the ultimate moksha. Are you ready for a moksha moment? Are you ready to break through? Then let us talk further. So let me take you back to India, where it all began, and why, and what was the real invitation of the Vedic tradition. So if you go to India with me, if you travel with me to India, and I'll take you to a holy river, like a Ganga, or in my hometown Ayodhya, the Sarayu. In the holy river, in one ghat, or in one place, you will find ghat is steps leading to the holy river. You will see that baptism is happening. A new baby has arrived in the world, and all the relatives are dressed in beautiful clothes, and they're singing and chanting, and the baby is being immersed in the holy water to be blessed by the goddess. We consider the river's goddess, embodiment of the goddess, Divine Mother. And then just a few yards away, we will see people dressed in white or black lamenting, putting their dead one into the river. So in India, or in older cultures, we see, India is an older culture, we see that life and death coexist. Its beauty and ugliness coexist. Oftentimes the aging parents are not put away in a home. They are kept with us, and we see them decay. We see them die. We see them hopeless. We see their youth ending. And there might be a toddler running around. There might be a teenager dreaming dreams of youth and sexual vigor and global achievement and victorious. You know how we all feel when we're 16. So all this happens together. So the culture doesn't cosmetize anything. The culture leaves you with this big understanding that light and darkness coexist. It leaves you with this understanding that spirituality is not just about choosing the light. Spirituality is about being okay with the darkness too. So therefore, I, feel that what happened here, especially in the West, was that it became a culture of the youth. We only celebrate sexuality, beauty, perfection. We've taken our aged and put them away, or we've hidden them from the world. They are not important. We even put makeup on the dead bodies to make them look a certain way. So we want to curate a life experience that is only about the positive, and therefore a spiritual journey also became about attracting the positivity that you want, manifesting the positivity that you want, and positive thinking and positive everything, forgetting that the negative has a very vital role to play in our life. Forgetting that in radical wholeness, if you want love, you have to also understand the lessons of hatred. If you want growth, you also have to understand the beauty of dystrophy and breakdown. It's a holistic process. This is the teaching of wholeness, not just wholeness is how my little ego feels in the moment, drunk on certain positive meditation. That little bubble that bursts the moment the doorbell rings and you have to greet someone you didn't want to deal with. Somebody interrupted your meditation and you're not anymore in the high. Somebody stuck a knife in your positive moment. So you see, we have created a world that is not supportive of a journey which is truly holistic. And bear with me. Let's look at even our gods. Have you ever seen Hindu gods and goddesses? So they will be in this mudra, which is a abhaya mudra, fear not mudra. They will be in this mudra, which is vara mudra. They are giving to you, okay, varada mudra. So they will be making you fearless. They will be giving to you because you are their child and you can ask them. But then they have other hands. And in their other hands, they are holding weapons galore. You know, an open blade, a big, and a mace, and bells, which if you hear that sound, it's like trillion bloodthirsty lions and lionesses are roaring at the same time. You know, so they are holding a rope with which they can lasso around you and pull you. So they're holding all these weapons, but they are in the background. In the front, they are like this. What are they representing? They are not representing absolute nonviolence. They are saying, we are peaceful beings. You mess with us, we're going to get violent. We'll get violent to bring about peace. So therefore, the teachings of the Vedic holism shows up in the iconography of the Hindu goddesses and the gods. It's so beautiful. We have a goddess called Parvati. She's a consort of Shiva. She is the epitome of motherhood. She has given birth to two beautiful sons, which really represents her creativity. She has created Ganesha. So she has given birth to Ganesha, represents the ability to withstand obstacles, to remove obstacles, and she has given birth to Kartikeya. Kartikeya is a lord who is of courage and, you know, going where he needs to go to be victorious. So she can remove obstacles and she can be victorious. You know, it's all, you have to understand the symbolism behind children and husband. Shiva represents supreme consciousness. And Parvati is a goddess. But do you know that from her sweat, from her outer skin was born, here she is in this sublime domesticity. And then from her skin, literally from her outer shadow, was born Durga. And Durga is a fierce warrior goddess. She doesn't put up with evilness. She doesn't put up with evil qualities within us. And from Durga, even Durga is very strong. But when things got really difficult on this planet, the legend goes that from her third eye was born the shadow goddess Kali. And my God, Kali is bloodthirsty. She even has her tongue hanging out. And she is killing, and she's on a rampage. Now, many biased European scholars who are really playing out their colonial, strain, commenting upon the Hindu gods and goddesses, said we have bloodthirsty, crazy creatures as gods and goddesses with so many hands and legs and, tongues lolling out and weapons. And these are all brute gods and goddesses. Oh no, God and Goddess should be perfect, should be peaceful, should be always a certain way, sitting on our lotus. We got our God sitting on our lotus, but that's a foolish God if they sit on the lotus all the time while the world comes to a destruction. Similarly, if you're sitting on your lotus thinking, all I believe is in peace and forgiveness, and then get ready. Get ready. You're going to be walked over. That is why Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita scolds his student Arjuna and says, you are not experiencing compassion for your brothers and for your family that is on the opposite side of the war. And you're saying to me, Krishna, let's end the war and go back and have a peaceful retreat. You are having false compassion. Compassion at the wrong time is nothing but moha or delusion. The desire to forgive prematurely is not the greatness of your soul that forgives, but moha or delusion. So it is so interesting that if you look deeply, the Vedic philosophy and the Vedic religion, which is most closely associated to it, Hinduism, has given us nothing but this very clear message that always sow the plants of peace, the seeds of peace, but be ready. Be ready with your inner weapons in case someone crosses that, because you are a royal being and you're not meant to be putting up with abuse or giving abuse. Lord Krishna has said giving abuse and putting up with abuse are equally sinful. Get this. This is the power of the Bhagavad Gita teachings. But unfortunately, all this teaching stopped being given because it felt like gradually we needed to cosmetize everything. So some of it is creeping up even amongst the Hindu Vedic teachers. And absolute beliefs started being taught to us. Now, what are absolute beliefs? Let it go. Let it all go. Okay? Always be grateful. Always. Not be grateful to never use your discernment as to when to let go and when to raise a point. Don't use your discernment as to when to forgive and when to expect restitution or something, or not forgive, because that is what will help that soul ultimately recognize what they need to do. So we were not told discernment, we were given these pithy statements. And that is all life and spirituality has become about. So is this helping you? Does this make sense? Let me know if it's helping you to write yes to me. I am a teacher who is teaching this satsang on this very important topic. I hope this will benefit you. It will empower you. Nowhere are the gods telling you to be violent, because they never raise their weapons against anyone who is upholding dharma, righteousness. But they came to your protection, and they come to the protection of their mini universe. Do you have weapons, even if they are just a hint of a weapon or not, is the question. Or are you just simply channeling this positive spirituality with this absolute belief systems? These absolute belief systems don't work much in the day-to-day life. And let me explain what happened here. In the ancient Vedic time, there was no concept of going away from the world to practice your spirituality. So most of the rishis, the seers, were married. Many of them had more than one wife because that was their time. They were not lusty, crazy people. It was just the time of their society where even women could have more than one husband and a man could have more than one wife. Many of them had lovers. They may live in a forest, etc., but they had beautiful social lives, romantic lives, and spiritual lives. It was a complete life. It was only later on, and always, this desire to have a monastic life away from the world, hidden in some faraway cave, was an option left over, but it was not for the masses. Even Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, for a bulk of you, for a bulk of us, it's better to be in the world and reach the peak of the mountain within the world. But really in India, the first teacher who made leaving the world, so to say, okay, and cluster into your own spiritual village or tribe was Lord Buddha. You may be aware of it. Prior to that, most people lived in domestic lives. But he made it popular. He made this call that you can come into the Sangha. And as he made this call, entire villages, males, gave the call to men only. Males would leave and the women were left behind. It's fine. I'm not making a comment on if it was right or wrong. I'm trying to lead you somewhere else. The teachings of Lord Buddha and the teachings that followed of many other teachers were absolute teachings. These were teachings for people who did not have to pay taxes. These were teachings for people who were secure in their Sangha. They were secure under a tree with their teacher. They were really clear where they were heading. Are we sitting with our Buddha under a tree? Do we have that safety? Do we have that guidance? We don't. So when Buddha made that call, he had the courage to take all of these people on, show them the way. Most of us find our teachers occasionally. I am here teaching for 2 hours. You might only listen to me for 30 minutes, if that. We are picking little bits and pieces of teachings here and there. We are not living in the forest. We've not had the courage to let go of our family and not worry about what happens to our children, our pets, our doctor's appointments. We are living in a very here and now world, which is very consumed. Now, if we have absolute values like absolute nonviolence, that Lord Buddha or even Lord Mahavira taught from the Jain school of thought, how will it even work? What if somebody attacks your young teenage girl on the way to school? What will you do? At that time, you need a weapon, a violent weapon of a violent tone of voice. You need to grab that person by the collar and, shake that person. You may even need to push that person across the pavement and protect your daughter or your son. I'm just mentioning that when we live in the world, we need relative values. And more than that, we need the judgment of when to use which value. You are not feeling violent against the people. You can go back home and pray. Pray to Guru Nanak, to Buddha, to Rama, to Jesus, that oh Lord, I had to be loud. I had to use my brute force. I don't want to hurt anyone. Please awaken that sleepwalking unconscious being who attacked my child and may attack other children. I have acted from violence, but only to protect not only my biological child, but also to teach this unconscious brother or sister of mine a lesson that it's not okay. I had to be Durga. I had to be Kali. I had to be that person who is not leading a life from absolute values. That night, you'll sleep, you'll put your head on your pillow, you will know you have not spiritually bypassed. You are as spiritual as before. But if you were not having this idea of a well-rounded, complete sense of totality informing your spirituality, and you were going by certain very curated teachings where you have been told that your ego is not there, it doesn't exist, so you are not feeling what you are feeling, this is only an illusion, this is nothing but karma coming back to you. If you just had these little bits and pieces of information, then you will find inept, weak, and ineffective in dealing with your life. And you may at that time find that you are being over pacific, over peaceful, over nice, over accommodating, over kind, exhaustively positive, blindly appreciative, thanking the wrong person for teaching you karmic lessons. I have remembering a story from Baba. my guru, when Baba had said to me that one such person who was bypassing spiritually thousands of years ago in ancient India had learned this little bit of teaching that whoever comes to you and whatever they give you is really God giving it to you. So just take it. So he was walking down the marketplace in ancient India thousands of years ago, and people kept running towards him and saying, "A wild elephant is coming." And he said, "God is coming. A wild elephant is coming. Oh, don't worry, God is coming." And the whole village emptied out, and he sat there, playing his flute, thinking God's coming. Finally, he heard this wild elephant who had obviously, he was not a normal wild elephant. This elephant had kind of lost his mind, and he was on a killing rampage. And he heard those shrieks, and he kept thinking, God is coming, God is coming. The elephant came, picked him up, raised him 8 feet in the floor, and threw him down, and broke his spine, and then walked away. So he was lying there crying and passed out. And when he opened his eyes, his Gurukulam or his wisdom school friends were helping him. And his teacher was sitting looking at him. And he said, "But Guruji, I had heard that whoever is coming your way is God. So I just stood there unprepared." So Guruji looked at him and said, "Yes, but why do you think God was only in the elephant? Wasn't God in the people who were informing you to make a U-turn and leave?" So that's what we do. We become so focused on one way to approach life that we actually become weak. We don't become stronger, we become weaker. I would like to say that there is no one reason why we do this, because clearly we all do it. When we have trauma, when we have wounds, when we have so much pain that we don't deal with it, we don't just bypass in spiritual areas. We can use our profession and zone out, become numb to everything. We think, well, we're achieving so much in our workplace. We create an artificial personality that is successful, that's calling the shots, that is, creating employment for so many people, etc., etc. And we think we've made it until we find out that we were only professionally bypassing. Similarly, we could be very beautiful, and so we are very sexual, we are very beautiful. Wherever we go, we can attract attention. So we may use our body to bypass something else that we need to. We all know about the one-night stand or getting drunk and passing out, or going dancing when somebody important is dying in your family. Why? Because we don't want to deal with it. So bypassing is not just your faults. It is human beings' collective imperative to recognize that we don't want to bypass, we want to pass through whatever is happening. So if you want to pass through whatever is happening, I would like to teach you some of the ways that I like to go through the difficult things that happen in my life.